Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Sweeney, and I'm the Marketing Director for Project Management Academy and Watermark Learning. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar on business analysis for project managers. We have a great speaker today to share a lot of great knowledge and information about how BA practices can benefit a project manager. A few things I want to go over before we kick off the session. First of all, the session will be recorded for those who miss it live. Two, slides will be shared after the session, so you will get a copy of the deck. The session will qualify for PDU or CDU credits. For PDU credits with PMI, you will want to file them under self-study or informal learning, and this would fall under the leadership category for the talent triangle. Also, please submit your questions throughout, and we will try to get to as many as we can at the end of the session. But before we get started, I just want to introduce today's presenter, Andrea Brockmeyer. Andrea is an experienced trainer, facilitator, speaker, and project professional with over 25 years of business experience. Andrea oversees certification and skills development curriculum in business analysis, project management, agile, and leadership. She has been a speaker at IIBA and PMI conferences and is an active volunteer. An enthusiastic collaborator, Andrea seeks to learn something new through working with her students and others every day. So we are in really, really good hands today. So Andrea, I will pass it along to you and we will go ahead and get started.
All right, thank you, Mike, and greetings, everybody. It's terrific to be here with you today. So you may have noticed business analysis for project managers. The subtitle on this, Understand BA Better, Be a Better PM, or Better Understand BA, Be a Better PM. I started out with Better Understand BA and then changed it to Understand BA Better. It sounded a little less finger wagging. So the suggestion is that you understand business analysis better, you'll be a better PM. So that's what I'm going for there. That was an observation I made after we initially sent that out. So at any rate, it's great to be here. So just a quick comment about who we are, Project Management and Academy and Watermark Learning. We are sister companies. We're both under the Educate 360 in the family of companies in Educate 360 or family of brands. Project Management Academy, the most trusted name in project management training. And we teach over 10,000 folks per year what they need to know to pass their PMP certification. So we've been doing that a long time. We've worked with 98 of the Fortune 100 companies. We are an authorized training partner with premier status, and we have a very deep bench of experienced PMI certified instructors. Watermark Learning has been around. We'll be celebrating our 30th year next year, and we deliver on-site and public classes, both certification and skills development in business analysis, Agile and Scrum, business relationship management, business process management, leadership and influencing skills. And we have a number of professional organizational affiliations and associations there that you see. So, all right, so what I want to talk about today, first of all, I want to define what do we mean by foundational business analysis work? What is that really all about? And then I want to talk about the role of the project manager in the context of that work. And I really want you to come away with an understanding of how understanding business analysis can make you a better PM, and just really give you some depth and appreciation for that. But before we move on, some observations that I want to share with you that have been made in the last few years. So here's something from 2016. Now, that sounds like a million years ago, but in fact, it really wasn't that long ago. And I've read similar things since then, but PMI made the observation in their Pulse of the Profession on requirements management that 47% of unsuccessful projects fail to meet original goals due to poor requirements management. So nearly half of companies aren't doing what they need to do on projects because they aren't doing good work around requirements management. Okay, that's daunting. In addition, inaccurate requirements gathering consistently ranks in the top 3 causes of project failure. Okay, and I've run across, again, things that allude to this. You do surveys all the time. What are your top 3 causes of failure? You regularly see that. But the second part of this, yet only half of organizations have the resources in place to perform this function properly. So here we have projects that aren't getting done, organizations that aren't getting the value that they need out of their projects, and because of requirements. And yet only half of organizations actually have what they need in place to do that work properly. And then the comment very recently, or the observation that was very recently made in an International Institute of Business Analysis survey, that 45% of BAs report that their biggest obstacle is people not understanding the BA role. Almost half of business analysts have problems, experience challenges, primarily because people don't understand what they do. And I understand or see this anecdotally in talking to people in classes, whether it's PMs or anybody in organizations. There is enormous confusion about this role. And so you kind of line these things up. And I mean, this is, something that is pretty significant, and yet it's also very fixable. And that's sort of, I think, the perplexing thing. This doesn't have to be something that we can't overcome. This is something that I really am intent on doing, and I think it can start with PM. So I'm going to pull you out of the depths of despair here and give you a little hump day humor. I'm going to ask you to give yourself permission to indulge in 2 minutes of listening to a classic comedy sketch here by Abbott and Costello. This is out of the Library of Congress. They did this, the recording for 1938. I think the video was 1953. So they did this for a long time. But just sit back and just have a couple of yucks on this video here on who's on first. You may have seen this before, but it's worth a laugh. Is it working? Is it not going to work? We tested it just a very short time ago. I'm trying to hit play here. Oh, maybe. Wow, what a bummer.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let me see. It looks all right.
Okay, all right.
We'll pretend. All right, I'll take it easy with that. We'll just pretend that we're organizing a baseball team here at the retired actors' home. And I am the manager. Now...
You're going to be the manager of the retired actors baseball team?
Yes.
I would like to join the retired actors baseball team.
Oh, you would?
And I would like to know some of the guys' names on the team, so if I want to play with them, I know them, and I meet them on the street or in the home here, I can say hello to them.
Oh, sure. But you know they give baseball players nowadays very peculiar names.
I know, a lot of funny names.
You know, like Sticky Fields.
Sticky Fields.
Goofy Dan. Boopy Bobber. Booby Bobber.
I know all those.
Well, let's see now. We have on our team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out, the guy's names.
And then,
That's what I want to find out, the guy's name.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
Now, Abbott, you going to be the manager of the baseball team?
Yes.
You know the guy's names?
Well, I should.
Well, you tell me the guy's names on the baseball team.
I say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
You ain't saying nothing to me yet. Go ahead and tell me.
I'm telling him.
You ain't said nothing yet. Go ahead and tell me.
Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third.
You know the guy's names on the baseball team?
Yes.
Well, go ahead. Who's on first?
Yes.
I mean the guy's name.
Who?
The guy playing first.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
What are you asking me for? I don't know.
Now, wait a minute,
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's his name.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
That's it. That's his name.
Well, you ain't said nothing. I ain't asked you nothing.
You did.
You know the guy's name on first base?
Sure.
Go ahead and tell me the guy's name on first base.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who is on first, Lou?
What are you asking me for?
Now, don't get excited. I'm saying who...
I'm asking you a simple question. Who's on first?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
That's it.
That's who? I'm asking you, what's the guy's name on first base?
Oh, no, what's on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who's on first?
One base at a time now.
Don't mix up my...
I'm not mixing up anybody. Now, what's the guy's name on first base?
Now, what is on second?
I'm not asking you who's on second.
Who is on first?
I don't know.
He's on third. We're not talking.
Wait a minute, whoa.
No, well, let's not.
Whoa.
So, I think about that. I love that sketch. But I think about it, a lot of times that's how it feels with PMs and BAs. Who's on first? We're not always sure on who's doing what. Not sometimes with other roles as well, but in particular with the BA and the PM. So I always sort of default to this: who's on first when I'm confused about who's doing what, or I hear people talking about that. So hopefully you found that a little levity for your midweek there. All right. So at any rate, so what is a business? What is a business analyst? So a business analyst is anybody who performs BA work described in the BABAC or any standard. You could take the PMI standard as well, no matter their job title or organizational role. So I think that's one of the things that we can get a little angsty about too, is this title BA. We don't know what that is, and so it kind of, I think, impedes us from recognizing when that work is being done, because we aren't really sure about that title to begin with. But it doesn't matter about the title. We have to separate those things. PMI says any resource who is performing the work of business analysis. So it could be you're just a part of a day or a portion of a day or whatever. I think that's really an important thing to recognize. And certainly we have BAs who go by different titles. You've got business systems analyst, business analyst, systems analyst, kind of like project managers, a project lead, a project manager. They're just different titles. So that doesn't help in one regard, that we have all that inconsistency, but it does. It is important to remember that we've got to separate the title from the role. Now, what then is business analysis? If a BA is somebody who is doing the work that's captured in a standard for business analysis, whether it's IIBAs or PMIs or whatever, what is this work of business analysis? So PMI, in their practice guide, they describe it as a set of activities performed to identify business needs and recommend relevant solutions, and to elicit, document, and manage requirements. So that sounds great, and certainly reference there to requirements. And we often think of BAs and sort of equate it with requirements. But there's other things going on there too: identifying business needs, recommending relevant solutions. Now, the BABAC IIBA standard describes it as the practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. There isn't even any mention of requirements there. We don't even mention it. It's just this idea of enabling change in an enterprise by defining what's needed and then recommending how to meet that need. Now, a confusion here for me is some of you may remember that years ago, project management was defined as projects are how organizations adapt to change. Does anybody remember that? I still refer to that. But then BA's business analysis, they came along, and at some point in their BABAC, I think it was in V3, then they started sort of talking about, or at least that's when I became aware of it, this business analysis is a practice of enabling change. And it's stepping on my toes a little bit there. I like to think of the project as how organizations adapt to change. They're saying business analysis is how organizations adapt to change. That doesn't help me very much in keeping these things straight. And then the PMI's Guide to BA, they describe business analysis as a set of activities performed to support delivery of solutions that align to business objectives and provide continuous value to the organization. So it's, getting finding solutions that meet that business need and provide continuous value to the organization. Now, to me, when I read particularly that last piece, providing continuous value, that really alludes to Agile in my mind, sort of that verbiage and that thinking about that continuous delivery of value. So just some different definitions there of what business analysis is. Now, why it's important. What's the importance of business analysis? Well, for one thing, it ensures that the solution that's delivered meets the stakeholder needs. So as we go back and we think about that, identifying that business need, it's making sure that what we're delivering meets the stakeholders' needs. It is obtaining buy-in from stakeholders. Business analysis is making sure you've got the stakeholders on board. It is ensuring that different viewpoints and needs are captured. So we're getting the different perspectives of people in business units and different layers or levels of the business unit, users, customers, everybody. It is helping to streamline processes and being mindful of waste, trying to eliminate waste. It's making sure that the solution adds value to the organization and stakeholders. And it positions the organization for success by enabling change. Okay. So my intent here today was to clarify you the difference between business analysis and project management so that you were very clear, and I'm sure at this point you are crystal clear, right? That's it. So there we go. Except that, wait a minute, as a PM, don't I do these things? I think these things are sounding really familiar. I think I do those things. I think these are some things that I consider to be part of my role as well. And that's very true. There is some overlap there for sure. And there are very small adjustments that we need to make, only small adjustments that we need to make in order to make these really speak directly to project management. So business analysis is, project management is, if we take these definitions that we looked at earlier, what do we need to do to make them apply or to make them appropriate or describe project management? So business analysis, the set of activities performed to identify business needs and recommend relevant solutions to elicit, document, and manage requirements. Project management is the set of activities performed to deliver the results of efforts to identify business needs and recommend relevant solutions and to elicit, document, and manage project requirements. Okay, so we think of the BA as the custodian of the product. We think of the project manager as the custodian of the project. The product being what it is we're delivering, the project being the work to do that, the work to deliver that. Okay. So business analysis, the practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining needs and solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. Project management is by defining needs and collaborating on how to deliver the solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. So very similar, slight nuance there, but it is different. And then the last one, a set of activities performed to support delivery of solutions that align to business objectives and provide continuous value to the organization. I gotta say, I'm okay with that one for both, actually. And maybe somebody's got a different thought about that, but I don't know that I would, that needs to be changed. I think that is actually appropriate to project management as well, because it speaks to the delivery of the solution. So that helps? Some? A little? Maybe not so much? What about these? What about the importance of business analysis? These sound so, I mean, I'm just really feeling good about these as a PM. Yeah, a couple of tweaks here. Project management ensures the project meets the stakeholder need, whereas the BA is ensuring that the product meets the stakeholder needs. Both project managers and BAs are obtaining buy-in from stakeholders. They are both making sure that different viewpoints and needs are captured. A BA is certainly going out and talking to a wide range of stakeholders, but think about all the work that project managers do in the area of stakeholders these days. And so some of that's going to overlap. Some of those stakeholders are going to be distinct. PMs help streamline processes and eliminate waste. Now, the project manager is ensuring that the project adds value to the organization and stakeholders, whereas the BA is ensuring that the solution adds value. Similar but different there, right? A little different perspective. And then I would suggest that they're both positioning the organization for success by enabling change. BAs by enabling change through a solution to a need, the project manager by enabling change through the management or the delivery of that solution. So it helps a little bit, I think, tuning some things up there, kind of getting our heads around that idea of that custodian of the project, the custodian of the product. What does that mean? Yes, the lines are a little bit blurry, but there are some important distinctions. But let's take a look at a sort of a map of sorts of what it is that BAs do, and see what that might help us understand. So here we have some buckets. You call them domains, call them knowledge areas, sort of buckets that we can put BA work into. And what are these buckets? So you've got this pre-project work. around defining the business need. And so one of the things that BA business analysis is, I think, in key distinction is the project manager we think about, is really focused on sort of cradle to grave for the project, boundaries of the project. The business analyst is really thinking beyond that. They're thinking outside the boundaries of the project. They're thinking pre-project. They're thinking really, especially enterprise BAs, very much at an enterprise level. So they're looking at what's going on in the environment, what's going on in our business, in the environment, what are the needs that we have, what are the options, what are the different ways that we could meet that need, and what makes the most sense to meet that need. And coming up with that business case, which is really the value proposition for an initiative. Why do something? It really answers the question why. Why would we want to do something? Okay. Now they also do a lot of work post-project. So I think one of the biggest shortcomings of many organizations is that they even when they have really good project management discipline, the project's over, we're done with that, we wrap that up. We may even have a really nice lessons learned exercise at the end, and then we're off and running to different things. And I don't think we are always as good at asking the question, was that worth it? We aren't always good at going back to revisit that business case and looking at that value proposition and really scrutinizing as to whether or not was our investment really a good investment. Did we get out of that what we had expected to get out of it? Business analysts are all about that. That is a huge piece of what they do. Looking at, did we realize the benefits that we were expecting to get? That is hard coded into BA work. That's just part of their DNA, is doing that post-project work. So sometimes after a project is closed and the PM is on to other things, that BA is still hanging around 3, 6, 9, 12 months later, looking at, okay, what do the metrics say? They're the ones that are thinking about, what are we going to measure? When are we going to measure it? What are we looking for there in terms of evidence as to whether or not we met our goal on that initiative? So they're looking at evaluating the solution or solution component after the project. Now, within the confines of the project, they're doing lots of requirements work. That's sort of the bulk of the requirements work, analyzing and documenting requirements and maybe tracing them and doing all those kinds of things that they do. They also plan for their BA efforts. So they have to think about, what are the things that we're going to do? What tools are we going to use? Who are we going to be working with? What kind of techniques do we want to elicit or to document or trace, or all the kinds of things that we're going to do? Planning throughout that. They're eliciting and collaborating and engaging stakeholders. So they're eliciting not just requirements, but maybe concerns or fears or constraints, assumption, risk, all sorts of things that they are eliciting there throughout the project, or throughout rather the project and even beyond on either side of that. And certainly they're managing requirements, the requirements that they're responsible for. PMs have their own requirements that they're responsible for. BAs have theirs as well. So again, you can look at this, and this is really tidy, and we've got this nice box here, and we see where things are laid out, and we sort of see these buckets of BA work and how that plays with the PM. But again, I think as a project manager, I'm looking at something like, wait a minute, I do some of these things. In fact, I have specific reference to some of these things in the project management body of knowledge. So if you think about that business case, okay, I don't own that as a project manager, but I sure am familiar with it. In fact, I know that as an input into the charter. Charters, anyone? A key input is that business case. And recently, as project management, I think in the last number of years, has put a lot more emphasis on the strategic aspect of project management, and that it is incumbent upon the project manager to, if they aren't involved in writing that business case, they need to know what's in it, because it informs what ends up in that charter, right? And so that sort of PMs need to be more strategic. That means reaching out, reaching back into some of that pre-project work, knowing what is that business analysis work all about? What does it take to put together a business case? That's typically not PM work, that's BA work, but it's huge, it's really important. That is a critical input into the whole genesis of a project. That would be a good thing to understand. What is a cost-benefit analysis approach that was used? What is the feasibility analysis that was included in that business case? And then the post-project stuff, that's true. We are inclined to sort of run off to the next thing, except that business benefits management plan, anyone? There's reference to that in our standard as well. The idea that they've been, talked about or have talked about more in the last number of years, the project manager needs to make sure that we do understand what are the benefits that we're looking to get out of this project. And this is something that it's helpful to understand that it really, a lot of that is BA work. That's what BAs do. It is core to their function. That is a key piece of their value proposition, is that they take note of what are the metrics that we're going to be looking at. Thinking early on as part of planning, what are we going to be measuring? And so as a project manager, I can, tag team with them and understand the work that they're doing, because that helps me also validate the work that we've done on the project, so that I know, looking back, was it worth it? I want to be able to answer those questions as well. I need to know, hey, 3, 6, 9, 12 months later, what are you finding out about that? I'm probably, as a PM, not going to hang around that long. But if I've got a BA that's doing that, boy, I want to know what it is that they're going to be doing, so that I can have that information as well when I go to think about working on a charter for another project. Well, this last one, was worth it, or it wasn't, or what was the value of what we delivered there. So I don't own that business benefits management plan, but I sure need to know what's in it. And the more I understand it, and the more I understand the work about that, the more effective I'm going to be in being able to answer the questions about the value of the project that I was on. And listening, collaborating, and engaging stakeholders. Boy, if that isn't one area of overlap, right? And so I need to know, okay, so business analysts, who are your stakeholders? Who are the ones that might be different than mine? For example, users, you're probably a lot more interested than I am. I might be more interested in, say, the change control board, or folks that are involved in change management on the project, those kinds of things. But we probably have some that are very similar as well, business unit leaders, management, those kinds of things. We need to understand where are the similarities and where are the differences, in particular, so that where there are similarities, we can coordinate effectively and communicate effectively, so that people aren't getting bombarded from both angles. We don't need people hearing the same person hearing from both of us. Let's figure out how we're going to make that work efficiently. And then this other work, analyzing and documenting requirements. I've got some requirements to deal with as well. Certainly not probably the effort that you have as a BA, because you've got more requirements to deal with. But planning that BA effort, boy, that's something we need to coordinate on. If I am responsible for providing the time and resources for you to do your BA work, I need to understand, what is that BA work? I need, the days of saying, well, why don't you go take a couple of weeks and get requirements, let us know when you're done. Those are long gone. This is way more than that. As we noted, current definitions of business analysis don't even mention requirements. It's more than that. There are other things that we're doing. Certainly requirements is a big part of it, but it's not the only thing. So I am ignorant about the work that it takes to do good BA work at my peril, because my project isn't then going to provide the resources, the time for someone to do that work. And managing requirements, they're going to have to be doing that as well. What does that mean? Well, I don't know, but I need to probably figure out, because if nearly 50% of projects are failing because there isn't good work being done around managing requirements, maybe I could do something different to provide what is needed on the project to do that well. And that benefits me, that benefits the organization, that benefits the business analysis work. So we have a project manager looking through that PM lens, the custodian of the project. We have a BA perhaps that looking through the BA lens, the custodian of the product. And there are these sort of categories, knowledge areas, whatever you want to call them, of overlap there. And so if I kind of understand what those lenses are, when there are questions that come up or things that need to be considered, I'm going to be way more effective and certainly more efficient in knowing who it is that needs to answer that question and to get a good answer to the question. So for example, who needs to know if we're going to miss a deadline on the project? Who needs to know that? Who's going to be answering that question? Whose concern is that? Who's going to be dealing with that? That's a PM thing, right? Who needs to know about the status of requirements? People need to know this. Who's going to be the driver on that? Who's going to be the one that attends to that? It's going to be a BA thing. Now, who needs to know about changes? That's going to be both project manager and BA. PM for changes as it relates to the project, the BA as it relates to changes on the product or the solution. Okay. What about risks? What if people won't make time for a requirements workshop? That's a risk. People just don't show up, or people don't have somebody who knows what we need in order to make a contribution to the workshop, anything like that. Whose risk is that? That's a BA's risk. They're going to need to think about that. What if we lose a developer on the project? Who's in charge of that risk? That's the project managers. How about what if the business case changes? I think we both need to be concerned about that one. That's going to have implications for both. But to have a really good substantive discussion around risks on this project as it relates to the project and the product, the ownership is discrete. The ownership is going to be separate. If I'm confused about who owns these risks, what am I going to be likely to do? Probably just dismiss the conversation entirely. I've got plenty of other fires burning and plenty of other things, rather than trying to wade through and think about who owns these risks so that we can deal with them effectively and figure out which ones are we going to respond to or not, or whatever that needs to look like. What about resources? What do we need for BA resources? It's going to be a BA thing. What do we need for project resources? That's a project manager's concern. How are we going to work with the PMO, project management office, or center of excellence, or whatever we have? We're probably both going to have to answer that. Maybe we've got a BA center of excellence, for example. That's something that we're going to both need to think about. So understanding sort of what it is that each of us does, and I would say that usually it's the PM needing to understand the BA more than a BA needing to understand what a PM does, helps us have better, more constructive conversations around these things, and helps us make way better use of our time and organizational resources by knowing who owns those questions, who is the one that needs to be addressing those things. Now, for some of you, the idea of having a separate BA on your projects may sound like sheer fantasy. It's like, wow, that would be dreamy. Me and then somebody else, that would be lovely. Many of us, I think there are a lot of PMs out there who are doing BA work, who are looking through both lenses, whether they know it, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're not really aware of when they're doing PM work and when they're doing BA work. They just know that things need to be done. And I think it's easy to think that, well, it really doesn't matter. It all just gets done. So I don't care if it's BA or PM work. It doesn't really matter. I just do it all. I would suggest that refining our understanding of where the project management boundaries are and where the BA boundaries are actually makes us better at both. Because you have different accountabilities, you have different responsibilities, you have different objectives when you're looking through those different lenses. And I'm all too happy to take off one hat, put on the other real fast. I can get pretty efficient at that. But it helps. And I will say that having started as a project manager and having developed BA skills later and really refining my understanding of that role, it was much more clear to me about what I was doing as when was I acting as a custodian of the project? When was I advocating for things that are going to benefit the project? When am I acting as a custodian of the product and advocating things that are going to benefit that? When do I go to certain kinds of stakeholders for things? Where do I go to get certain kinds of questions? When is that reasonable? What do I expect of myself when I'm wearing a PM hat? What do I expect of myself when I'm wearing a BA hat? If I am clear about that, other people are going to be clear about that as well. If I am not, there is confusion, and that breeds frustration, and that, I would suggest, also tends to breed disengagement, where people are just going to pull back because they don't know, and nobody's winning on that. So a PM who understands better business analysis has better clarity to distinguish their work from BA work when the lines seem blurry. Things seem a little blurry here. Well, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the solution. Am I looking at the project? Am I looking at the what it is that we're delivering? Am I looking at the actual delivery of that product? They have better clarity, and they're better able to recognize when they're doing BA work and to use that perspective. And they know when to be participating in which project and product related activities and how much. If I understand business analysis and I'm trying to do both, I need to know, when do I need to plug in as a PM? When is it appropriate for me to show up with my BA hat on? When am I engaging with these folks around something project related? When am I engaging with these folks around something BA related? Now, there are other things that BAs address as well. Business rules, for example. Business rules are self-imposed constraints about how we do things. I think the business rules are like how we do things around here. Right? And these are things that are not specific to a particular project. So it's hard for, PMs tend not to think about business rules. They're not project specific. They're not even product specific. They're across maybe the department or even the entire organization. So I think of business rules as, like, if I quit working in my organization, I walk down the street and I'm gonna start working at the competition. They do the exact same thing we do. They sell the same thing we do. But I start working at this other organization, and things are different. They do things differently than we do. Those are business rules. They're just self-imposed constraints about how we do things around here. So examples might be customers have a valid account to withdraw cash, have to have a valid account to withdraw cash, or that there must be a signed agreement before a project can be scheduled, for example, things like that. And these are really important to understand. Why would it be so important for a BA to understand business rules? Well, if you can imagine a solution, including maybe, say, processes, and we're going to be modifying the way people do things, that the sequence in which things are done, perhaps, or people that are plugged in different parts of a process. There are business rules that impact how things are done, maybe the sequence in which things are done. And we need to surface those. The big challenge with business rules is, where do they typically reside? And the answer is in our heads, in people's heads. It's tribal knowledge. There is such a thing as a business rules catalog, which is a very lovely artifact if you have one. Most organizations, in my experience, do not have much in the way of a business rules catalog. It's just, how do you learn the business rules? Well, you hang around a while and make some mistakes, and you eventually learn the business rules. So a BA spends a lot of time making sure that we understand what the business rules are, so that we don't come up with requirements that violate them, so that we don't end up with a solution that is in conflict with that. So these are really key, and we talk about making sure that we have identity for business rules as they impact or as they're related to requirements and things that we are developing in terms of the solution. Now, another key thing that a BA does is what's called traceability. And traceability is, you can use tools for this. You can also use an Excel spreadsheet. A lot of people will use something like this. But the idea of traceability is that it's drawing a connection between a requirement, say a functional requirement, or some characterization of the product or the solution that we're building. We're drawing a line between that and the business requirement or the business need. So it's saying that there is a link between this feature, this function, this characteristic of the solution and the business need, why we're doing this. It's literally tracing it back to that. This is really critical. It does two main things. It does a number of things. But one, it is establishing value, that it is determining that it actually, this thing that we're thinking about creating actually has value, because we can trace it back to the business need. If our business need is to grow the market share or grow our market share, or to increase some efficiencies somewhere, that this is actually going to help do that. And so we document that. We literally draw this line to it. The other thing is it's a means of controlling scope. If we can't do that, then there's no sense in doing it. There is no value, and we don't want to include it. So BAs have this great thing called traceability, which is a great way to manage scope. Super effective, super valuable tool and approach. The other thing that traceability does is it makes sure that a requirement is traced to things like maybe artifacts that we have, could be design docs, test cases, various maybe models that we have created that support that requirement. And so it's a way to make sure that we have everything we need for this requirement, so that we don't end up somewhere downstream and realize, ooh, we don't have test cases for that, or oh, gee, we don't have any design docs for that. So that as we're moving through that, we're ready for what it is that's coming. This is also something that you can do in an adaptive environment. It tends to be like everything in an agile or adaptive environment. It tends to be a little lighter. An impact map is a way of establishing traceability to goals. Story maps are a way of tracing stories to deliverables and activities. Defining acceptance criteria as user stories get refined is a way of tracing to the user stories, which can go back to other things. So there is a sort of this idea of traceability even in the context of an agile environment. But the thing is that traceability is enormously valuable. It's something that BAs, it's just, again, core BA work, but it's not free, and it takes time. You're not going to do as much tracing on a small project as you might on a bigger project, but if you've got a BA coming to you and saying, hey, this is a regulatory project, and we're going to need to be doing some traceability. As a PM, if I understand the value of this and I understand what it takes to do some of this, my answer is going to be, gee, let's make sure we've got the time in this project, and we've got this project constructed in such a way that allows you to do that. Because this is not just a, well, you want to trace, just go ahead and do it, but we're not going to modify the plan to accommodate that. This has real value, not just for the work that the BA is doing, but for the work that the project manager is doing as well. The ultimate outcome of that initiative is in many ways predicated to the quality of the BA work that is being done, every bit as much certainly as the quality of the work that the PM is doing. So, wait a minute, don't I do those things? Actually, not so much. These are core BA activities. These are not things that PMs do. And so a PM who understands that work, they're the ones who then can better plan for the work that needs to be done on their projects. This kind of stuff is not just frivolous. These are things that actually need to be done to start addressing some of those dreadful numbers that we were looking at the beginning. And as a PM, if I understand this, I can collaborate and advocate for this project team member better. I can say, hey, folks, we're going to make some changes because the business analysis work that's going to be done on this project needs to include some pretty rigorous traceability. And so we're going to make some changes, or we're going to make sure that we incorporate that into the plan. And people are saying, what is that? I don't even know what a BA does. I sure don't know what traceability is. We can help advocate for that. And that is going to be a better result for everybody. The other thing to consider is the project approach, right? So if we look at a predictive project, we look at an agile project, what does the BA work look like on a predictive project? So in a more traditional waterfall project, if you want to use that term, you do a lot of BA planning up front. It's all up front, it's predictive, and that we are going to ask questions, get the requirements. We analyze, maybe do some modeling, do our BA thing here, and then we're going to get a requirements baseline, that approved, detailed baseline of requirements. And then the rest of the project is pretty much managing and communicating requirements, managing changes. If there are changes, we get approval for the changes, update the plan, and then manage to the new requirements. That's a song we're all familiar with. In an adaptive environment, heads up, there's business analysis work being done all over the place. and I have talked and written about this for some time now. The project manager role in an adaptive environment isn't quite as clean as the BA's role is in an adaptive environment. But if you're in it, say in a blended environment, you're doing, sort of a mix of traditional and agile. You've got a project manager who's maybe interfacing outside of the development team or whatever. Just be aware, business analysis work is being done everywhere. It's being done in conjunction with the product owner and with that responsibility for that product backlog, with the team and their sprint planning, daily work throughout the sprint. If you're doing Scrum, this is a Scrum example. Sprint reviews, sprint retrospective, all of these kinds of activities down here at the bottom are core BA activities, and these are being done throughout in an agile environment. So a visual for that, in a traditional environment, your BA work is going to be real heavy, and then it drops off precipitously, and they hang around for managing change throughout the duration of the project. If you're doing iterative or incremental, you're going to have peaks, and then things drop off a little bit depending on the length of your iterations or increments. Agile, which is of course both iterative and incremental, it's pretty steady. The BA it's just really even a flat line would be appropriate. It's just pretty steady throughout the effort. So that's another thing. If I understand what kind of an approach we're using something traditional, something agile, something in the middle, which is most people these days, I think. What does that BA effort need to look like? I'm going to be a way better partner with that BA if I understand what kind of an approach we're using and what the implications might be for that BA effort. So PMs who get business analysis are folks who understand the larger context for the initiatives they manage. It's not just this project lens that I'm looking through, but I understand the bigger picture because I'm a partner with the BA and understand that business analysis has that broader lens. BAs who get PM know what is required to deliver their projects. And it's not just the list of activities in the PIM box. It is the list of things that the BAs do. It's a long list, it's a detailed list, it is rigorous work. And in the end, project managers who get BA are going to be better stewards of project resources and organizational resources. I am going to be better at managing what it takes to get my projects done when I understand this critical role. So not unlike when we teach team members project management, even though they're not managing the project, they're more effective team members, right? I love teaching, and this happens all the time. We have team members, well, they're not really managing projects, but they're team members. But when they understand what the project manager is doing, they're way more effective. They're better partners. They can be a little more proactive. They can be better support for that key role. Sponsors, same thing. Sponsors who come to project management training, oh my gosh, that's glorious. When sponsors understand what PMs do, they're way more effective as sponsors. They are better able to support that PM and be a partner to that PM. And kind of like in an orchestra, if I am an oboe player and I know every note in a choral symphony that I'm a part of, I can play it perfectly. I might play it really well if I were to play it by myself, but I play it a whole lot better when I understand and can hear all the other parts of the orchestra. That's why everybody's on stage together. And I think as project managers, we owe it to ourselves to better understand what everybody on our project is doing. We don't have to be the subject matter expert. We don't have to be doing all the detailed technical work that they do, but it's incumbent upon us to understand this key role. So just a reminder here, 45% of BAs report that their biggest obstacle is people not understanding their role. And folks, we can do better than that. We owe it to ourselves to do better than that. It is in our interest to do better than that. And when we better understand business analysis, we know when we are doing BA work and when we're not, like when we're doing project management work. We are better product and project custodians. And we can advocate for BAs and the work that they do, that work that is so critical to our projects. So that's what I've got. Our next Business Analysis Foundations class coming up in August. So I would love to see you there in that class. And that's what I've got.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for sharing that awesome presentation with all of us. We do have a couple questions that came in, but if other folks have questions, please do feel free to send them in now. If the BA is the custodian of the product, what is the product manager's role?
You know, I knew that would come up. So product manager, they may have things like looking at the marketability of something, or they might look at things even outside of the BA's role. So a product manager, maybe somebody that a BA works with, and sometimes there's blending of those roles too. But the BA is more looking at the solution to a business need. So a product manager has responsibility for a product. They may not be involved in some of those things like writing a business case or evaluating how the solution meets a business need or those kinds of things. And that's not a hard and fast thing. People, can have different definitions for those as well.
All right. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, you will get a copy of the PowerPoint in an email after the session. Any standard BA templates that would be helpful for PMs?
You mean for the PMs to use?
I would think so, yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. Well, anything, if BAs have, what I would ask, I wouldn't have something necessarily to distribute, but I would find out what BAs are using, for example, for their requirements documentation. Project managers, as you know, have their own requirements. They have project requirements, deadlines and maybe constraints that they're working with. Maybe they have to have certain qualifications of people working on the project or things like that. I would reach out to a BA. That's a great thing to partner with your BA on and find out what are the things that I might use that would be helpful so that you're using the same thing. Traceability, not so much. I think I wouldn't be looking for something like that. I think mostly it would be around however they're capturing requirements and make sure that you're capturing them the same way so that there's efficiency there in terms of sharing that information. Actually, and it goes the other way. I think I would think too, are there templates that the PM is using that the BA can leverage? It's really that partnership so that, for example, like stakeholders, both BAs and PMs have stakeholders to be thinking about. Let's capture the same information in the same format. Maybe we, have it in the same document that's separated somehow, tabs on an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, so that there's as much, sharing there as possible so that you're not having to look at different things. I think that question would go both ways, and that would be a function of, who's got what, and whoever's got templates, share them between the two of you.
All right. What's the best title one would like to see on the resume while hiring for a role that involves both BA and PM responsibilities?
Wow. What would you, so if you're a BA and you have that dual role, I would call it project manager / business analyst. I think. I don't know. I hadn't thought of that. Maybe somebody else has an idea for that. The problem with business analysis is what we talked about right in the beginning. So many people don't know what it is. So that's people know what a project manager is. I would lead with that and then emphasize with heavy business analysis skills and then just explain and, once you get in what that means and help them understand how it's so important to the project. I think I would be inclined, I don't know, maybe people disagree with this and I might change my mind after we hang up here, but I might lead with PM and then emphasize the BA work so that it's really clear that you understand that part. I don't know. Can't think of a specific title that kind of captures both. Nothing's coming to mind. That's a good question. gonna think about that.
All right. Are there PDUs available for this course? There actually are. It should be 1 hour by the time we wrap up here, and you would want to file that under leadership, and that would be self-study when you file it to PMI. Okay, next one. I recall years ago at a BBC conference hosted by IIBA that Elizabeth Marson shared a matrix checklist outlining what BAs and PMs are responsible for throughout the project lifecycle. Can you locate and share that?
I can. I almost included it in this presentation and I just got distracted with the other things, so I didn't include it. Yeah, I'd have to look at it, and I know I can find it. Yeah, let me look for that. Yeah. I'll let her know you were asking for it. She'll like that. That's good.
All right. Do you have any book or document that I can refer for understanding the conflict of interest between BA role and PM role and better solution to handle the same? I had encountered a lot the past decade. Do you have any book or document that I can oh, it looks like he just repeated this. Maybe not. Do you have any book or document that I can refer for understanding the conflict of interest between BA role and PM role and better solution to handle the same? I had encountered a lot the past decade.
Yeah. You know, two things on that. I'm not sure that I don't know of a book per se. I mean, there's some blogs and things like that. I don't know about a book. But, you know, and then I think that the whole thing of the concept, it's interesting you phrase that as conflict of interest. I don't think there is a conflict of interest, which is part of, and I think, and I'm not trying to call that out, but I think that's it. I think sometimes that's our reaction, is to think of this as a conflict of interest, when in fact there is not a conflict of interest. And as long as we feel like there's a conflict of interest, I think that means we need to be partnering stronger then. Let's, okay, you know, I'm still feeling like we're kind of like this, which doesn't make sense at all. There needs to be this, right? It's we work together. And so that's really an interesting, in fact, if I revise this presentation, maybe incorporate that idea. I think that really reflects how we feel sometimes about it. And that indicates that we're not where we need to be in terms of our understanding about the differences, because they're completely synergistic. And but I don't know of a book per se. There's different articles that have been written and things like that. Maybe I can find a couple of links.
Someone said, to the previous question, BA plus PM could be called a solution manager.
A solution manager, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there, when you're out there, if you're looking for a resume line item and searching for a job, I don't know, a solution manager. I like that. I think that sounds interesting. I don't know, is that a common title? I don't know if that would be helpful in a job search, or that'd be like, what is that? I don't know, solution manager. Solution manager. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this was that person's title, she said. So.
Oh, really?
Excuse me.
Okay.
Don't know.
Maybe I just don't. Maybe I'm not familiar with that. Solution manager. I like it. I hire a
I'm also
solution
told
manager.
solution architect is a thing.
Solution architect. Okay. Yes, I have heard that one. Yep. So maybe that sounds more BA to PM than PM to me, but I don't know. I'm not as familiar with that title. Yeah. You know, people write their own titles these days. I think it's different if you're in an organization or if you're in a job search. In a job search, I think it's a different challenge. So I would probably be inclined to look and see how many titles you see in a job search and use something that other people are using. Yeah.
All right, that is the end of the question. Oh, wait, one more coming in. Will you look at agile way of working as an additional dimension for PM plus BA plus Scrum Master / PO?
Well, yeah, and I've done webinars kind of alluding to this. Yeah, I mean, I think that as I said, I think this answers the question that the product owner is, you know, a lot of what they do is business analysis. A lot of what they do is some project management too, right? I mean, they're in terms of the, you know, cost and time and all of that. I mean, so if you think about what a PM is responsible for, that a lot of that speaks to what a product owner is responsible for. But a lot of what they do is business analysis work, figuring out what is the business need. They kind of own that and the alignment of what's being delivered with that, and that refinement of what it is that's being delivered and checking that and acceptance criteria and all of that. I mean, it's really a lot of BA work. So that's why you find a lot of times your BAs working as proxies for the PO or working very closely with the PO in a way that they don't plug in. I think they plug in easier than do PMs. So I think that answers that question, or not.
All right, let's see if we can get this last one in. For BAs and for BAs or PMs interested in business analysis certification, which one is better, IIBA's CBAP or PMI's PBA?
Well, different answers to that. There isn't a single right answer for that. For people who do project management and business analysis, or who sort of grew up as PMs and then have recognized or added business analysis skills to their repertoire, I think the PBA, the PMI PBA, is a great certification. I think they're all great, but the PBA is a really great certification. That is really business analysis done in the context of projects, programs, portfolios, and so I think that's a really great perspective. The CBAP or IIBA certifications are great. The CBAP is, I think, honestly, the gold standard for enterprise-wide BAs. If business analysis is your thing, that's how you got started, that's what you know, and you have that really global perspective on business analysis enterprise-wide, that's a great certification, very prestigious, and you have to have a lot of experience for that. The exam is case study based. It's really a pretty heavy lift. Their ECBA is also a great certification for PMs. So IIBA's entry-level certificate in business, or certification in business analysis, is great. It forces you to commune pretty intensely, I'd say, with the BABAC, that's standard, but you don't have the depth of knowledge about it. You do have to know it, but you don't have to have the depth of knowledge about it that you do as a CBAP. So there are great options, and I'm happy to answer more. I mean, I'm happy to be linked with folks on LinkedIn. If you've got questions, I can sure share more too about that. But lots of great certifications out there. IIBA's AAC too, Agile Analysis Certificate, is pretty easy certificate to get, but it's really great. It gets at Agile or business analysis in an Agile environment. That's another great one. So lots of really good options out there.
All right, so we are a bit over time. So I want to, first of all, thank all of the folks who attended, and also Andrea, thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge with us. A few reminders: we will be sending out the recording, a link to the slides, as well as some information about the upcoming BA Foundations course if you're interested in that. So yeah, that's it. Andrea, any parting remarks for everyone here before we let them go?
No, thank you so much. If you've got a holiday weekend coming up here, I hope you have a great one. Hope everybody's summer's going well, and just thanks so much for your time, folks. I know it's a lot to be away for an hour from your desk, so I appreciate you spending it with us.
Thanks, Andrea, and thanks to all of you, and keep an eye out for that follow-up email. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks.